This episode is sponsored by JDAQA Software Testing, your scalable solution for manual, automated, security, and performance testing. Check us out at jdaqa.com. And with that, let's get on with the show.
This is The First Customer, hosted by Jay Agnew.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the First Customer Podcast. My name is Jay Agnew. Today, I'm lucky enough to be joined by an old friend of mine, one of my first customers at JDAQA, and a guy who's got a couple cool things going on, Sanket Karamchandani. What's up, man? How are you, brother?
Hey man, thank you for having me on, Jay. Yeah, we met 4 or 5 years ago, and it's been a great relationship so far. So thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man. And we're here to talk about that a little bit, but more so your ice cream business, which I think, it's like the novel thing, but then like you get into it and you realize it's like, hey, this is an actual business and I have to do business stuff. I'm not just making ice cream, like I'm having to be a real business owner. So I want to get into that stuff too. But take me back, where'd you grow up and who was your biggest impact, being an entrepreneur growing up?
Yeah, so I grew up in the Bay Area out here in California, and yeah, I guess I would say my biggest impact as far as going into business and entrepreneurship in general is actually kind of out of left field, I guess you can call it. It's an idol of mine, a sports idol. His name is Sachin Tendulkar. He's the best cricket player who's ever lived, and growing up I watched him, basically break all the world records in cricket, and essentially as I started watching him more and more, learning more and more about him, I realized his whole, mission really is to do the things that he loves and, chase his dreams and kind of, take no shortcuts to get there. And so that was actually the, driving factor to me wanting to do something that I love in life, which in my case turned out to be ice cream.
Beautiful. And what and this isn't a negative question, but it's gonna sound like a little bit, but what took you so long? Like what got in the way between, being inspired as a kid growing up watching this guy and then, fast forward till now, what got him in between?
Yeah. Well, so I think, I had that idea back when I was like 12-ish or so. So before I was 12, I still, had that idea that I want to do something that I love in this life for my career. And before that point, it was being a professional soccer player. And then right around that 12, 13 years old, I realized, all right, I'm probably not making it pro, unfortunately. So what's the second thing that I loved? And it was ice cream. And, my parents, my friends, nobody really believed it because who really says that? Who's going to say they're going to create an ice cream company back at that time? And so, I always knew it, but I didn't know how or when it was going to happen. I think, I realized that I did still need to figure out, what I could call like a plan A career or, get myself at least set up into a position where I could finally make that leap. And so, yeah, I guess, I had to set myself up in a different capacity before I could finally take a leap into ice cream.
That it's very cool because you hear a lot of times people want to do stuff, people want to start a business. It's the old, I was just talking to my wife about it yesterday, got to have money to make money thing. Like there is some truth to that where you eventually needed money to start a business and do this ice cream thing. Like making ice cream isn't free. So like just even starting the process of doing these things, it, requires sometimes having a base of like a real job and like doing stuff first and saving up money and kind of building connections and doing those things. So it sounds like the kind of the smart way to do it. So tell me, how did you come up with the idea? Like again later, was it just something you kind of had in the back of your mind forever and you're like, now's the time, and you started to kind of do it? Like what was the genesis to actually, the point where you formed an LLC or, formed a company to do this?
Yeah. So basically, yeah, the idea was always in the back of my head. And like I said, my friends say this all the time. I say random, outlandish things. So nobody really believed me until it was real, which is totally fine. But yeah, every single, kind of throughout college, if I had a job or if I had, any roles after college and things like that, of course, it was kind of it was for two things. One was to set my career up, and the other was to learn about just how the world works and how business works and everything like that, for it to kind of inform my eventual move into creating an ice cream company. And then, that led me into being a product manager, where, of course, product management is, in kind of like the sector between technology and business. And so I got a lot of learnings out of that. And what actually kind of pushed me forward to actually creating the company, coincidentally, it was actually that I just had more time when COVID started. And so, that kind of pushed me to say, hey, I think it's time.
I know a little bit of the genesis of kind of the story about making ice cream with friends and then ended up working, with your mom and stuff. Tell me about that. I know you did some crazy stuff, like you went door to door with, boxes of ice cream and did so. So tell me, like, you put this plan together during COVID. You're like, all right, I've had this thing I wanted to do forever. I'm finally going to go do it. What were that was all kind of, I've been big on like action versus motion these days. And like, if you get stuck in the motion, just like, trying to figure stuff out, and like, how do I do it? Like, what was your action? What did you go out and do to kind of kick this off? And what was the first few steps?
Yeah, the first few steps. So well, before I actually started the company, I started experimenting more and more with my ice cream flavors. And I, had made, I think maybe like 8 or 10 good ones that I felt comfortable with, people would want to buy this. And so from there, I kind of narrowed it down to what was going to be my starting menu. We did a bunch of photo shoots with ice cream. And in fact, the first photo shoot we did, my friend and I actually did it with mashed potatoes because mashed potatoes kind of look like ice cream and then doesn't melt. So I was doing a little practice session with some mashed potatoes, and we put the photo shoots together and put together my first menu and my first set of flyers really. And then I just walked around a couple neighborhoods, including my brother's neighborhood where I lived at the time, introducing myself to the folks and giving out samples and saying, hey, do you want to try this, or just getting feedback from everybody. So those first few sessions was really a lot about like learning. But again, this kind of goes back to, I mentioned any role I had in the past also informed what I did. So for example, in college, I actually did a different door to door selling job. I was selling solar panels back in college. So that experience, believe it or not, it definitely like taught me, what to look for and how to carry out, a door to door sales campaign.
I mean, did you feel like if you're riding a bike, did it kind of come back to you when you were walking around? You're like, oh, this was the ideal way to do this. Because a lot of people don't have that college or, earlier experience to do that and would probably be completely lost. Did you have something you fell back on as far as a plan, from back in the day when you used to do it?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think from that perspective, it's more like I was used to it, or like you said, like riding a bike, it kind of came back to me as far as, how to really, talk to people at the door. You can imagine like people at the door, they're having dinner at 6 p.m. and things like that. Like they don't necessarily want to be bothered with ice cream. But, hey, I kind of, I took some of those techniques from, what I learned back in college, and I was able to, I mean, really, at the end of the day, it became more of like me just having a conversation with neighbors versus anything else. Wasn't trying to like oversell or anything like that. More just trying to introduce what we were up to, and it's something that I have wanted to do forever. And so, just sharing the story really was part of that.
And how did you, and I know you kind of mentioned Groove being very supportive of this along the way. How did you do it at the same time? I mean, obviously maybe it was after hours or whatever, but just from a lot of people would be afraid to even ask and say like I'm doing this other thing because they think their main employer is gonna freak out or say you can't do that or whatever. Like how did you approach that situation with Groove and how, what was their response?
Yeah. So Groove, yeah, Groove was the company that I have been working for. Well, it was like 5.5 years I worked there, and now I work at a company called Clary that acquired Groove. Just for context for everybody. But anyway, yeah. So pretty much the reason I was able to, approach them in that way, I would say, I was a little bit nervous, just like anybody might be, but I had a great relationship with the team, and even at the very beginning when I first interviewed there, the CEO or the CEO at the time, he asked me like, what I want to do in 5 years. And I said, I want to run an ice cream company, which, he doesn't hear every day, but, his first reaction was like, okay, awesome. How do we help you get there? And so right from the beginning, it was kind of that relationship that we had. And yeah, they were extremely supportive. Um, Obviously I made sure that it didn't impact my work with them. And then, even from there, they like it's almost like it's been a little bit of a partnership in the sense that, or almost like one of my coworkers told me it's like my company is the like little sister, little brother company of Groove because like for example, they celebrated the anniversary of one of their or one year basically celebrated the anniversary, bought pints from me for everybody in the company. And as what we did was, shipped it nationwide to every employee at the company, made a flavor that's just for Groove. That's still on our menu, one of my favorite flavors still. And then even beyond that, I've catered 3 weddings for coworkers, done a couple happy hours and things like that. So yeah, overall, they've been extremely supportive. And I think, I appreciate that support like no other, I couldn't really describe it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the lesson there is ask, right? I mean, if somebody has an idea or they're like they want to do something and they have a current employer and you're afraid to ask, just ask because you never know. Maybe they're using your product, like yours in a couple of years. So, how did you go from door to door to what you're doing today? Like, do you have a marketing strategy that's developed? Are you like, how are you attacking sales? Like, how have you matured the marketing and sales side of things from that initial, knock on the door to what you guys are doing today?
Yeah, yeah. So there's a couple different things. I think, door to door, from my perspective, I don't think it should ever stop because I don't know, I believe in that like in person connection and things like that. But beyond that, we do, I'm going to a wedding trade show tomorrow where, couples who are looking for their vendors come and check out, different vendors. And so we'll be giving out samples there and just talking to couples and things like that. And then, of course, there's the digital marketing aspect of it, Instagram, Facebook, those sorts of things. And then actually coincidentally, another huge part of my, sales and marketing strategy, I use Groove pretty much on a daily basis. Groove is, a sales engagement product. And so, it helps me with a lot of my communication, with a lot of my data management, a lot of my automation and things like that. So, yeah.
Love it. Love the full circle there back to groove. That's nice. I'm sure they appreciate it too. And so, do you remember who your first customer was? Who paid you for ice cream?
Yeah. So the very first customer, it was actually a friend. Of course, my friends understood what I was up to, and, they were the first people that I obviously showed it to or, kind of sold to, I guess, in that sense. Or so that was the first couple ones I drove around. It was on National Ice Cream Day 3 years ago or so. And that was kind of, how it kicked off. And then beyond that, that very first door to door session is when I got first customers that I, don't know personally. And I'm very, it's really nice to know that a couple of them are still, our monthly subscribers actually.
You had to like and I don't know how to ask this question without like it's a loaded question, I guess, but how do you deal with like uh complaints around, calories or hey, is there a sugar free flavor? Is there a gluten free like are you just inundated with like request to change the nutritional value of what you're putting out, or have you kind of made the stance that like it's ice cream, it tastes really good, it's gonna have some sugar and some whatever in it, and that's what it's gonna be, or are you kind of trying to kind of find some balance there where it's a little bit of both?
That's a good question. So I guess, well, yeah, at the end of the day, it is ice cream. And, there's no hiding from that or anything like that. It's an indulgent, but, I personally am, I like to, eat pretty clean and, stay fit and things like that as much as I can anyway. And so, from that perspective, we're not promoting that you eat, 20 scoops of ice cream every day or anything like that, but we make it in our way and we like to put different combinations of ingredients together. I will say, for example, like our butterscotch flavor, what the fudge flavor that we have as well, and things like that, those are on the higher calorie side, but it's ice cream, and we're here to make it taste good and give you pleasure from eating our scoops.
I like that answer. I like that answer a lot. It's very honest, and it's I mean, it is what it is, right? I mean, it's something great, and like it's just like any other thing that you can enjoy in moderation. There's reasons why you're enjoy life, and I think ice cream is one of them. So I think it doesn't you don't have to be, and I'm the same as you. I like to eat somewhat as clean as I can, and try to be fit and all those things. But like, who doesn't want good ice cream every now and again? So I think that's a really fair and honest answer. So you said year three. What are you taking into year three that you've learned so far? Like, what are the biggest things that you want to change or get better at or do differently this year than you did the last two?
Yeah, so we're in year 4 now. Year 3 passed a couple months ago, or like, the third anniversary. What I want to do better, I think, now it's time for it to grow from a small, like, just a few people know about it sort of situation to being a much more, well, we want to get widespread. We want to scale this thing. And, a lot of that is making relationships with partners, for example, wedding venues or other caterers or wedding planners and things like that. And then same with, restaurants and folks like that. So it's a matter of us, I think taking a leap or kind of taking the next step forward. Up until now, it's been, a lot of foundational work, I would say. A lot of that also included, upgrading our ice cream equipment and getting ourselves, ready to do that, next step or to scale. And so, yeah, that's what I'm looking to do in this year.
A couple more questions, and I know you get to work with somebody special. How do you, what? Just give me the thoughts and feelings on getting to work with your mom on a project, company, business like this.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. So my mom and I, we make the ice cream together, and then I run the business operations. And so, it's a lot of fun, to be honest. It's My mom is amazing in the kitchen. She always has been. She loves, feeding, her friends and or her family and everything like that. And specifically with desserts as well. Like all her friends call her the dessert queen. And so, maybe that's where I picked it up from. Maybe I'm the dessert prince or something like that. But it's a lot of fun. We get to hang out a lot more now. And, I would say it's just a lot of fun. Like, I can't put it any other way. Just we enjoy doing it. And it's obviously very hard work, especially we both have, jobs. She's a teacher. She comes home from school in the evening after a long day with kids. And, we get down to ice cream production. And yeah, we're still loving it. So
So, man. All right. If you could do anything in the world and you knew you couldn't fail, non-business wise, what would it be?
if I could do anything in the world non-business wise, what would it be? I think, this kind of goes back to what ice cream means to me. I know you said, let's not make it ice cream related necessarily, but it's more about like the conceptually what ice cream is to me, I guess. And it's a simple pleasure, right? That, it makes people happy, right? It makes, you know, nobody's ever sad eating an ice cream cone. So, from that perspective, I think like I want to be able to show people that, you can keep things simple. You can, live in a way that promotes positivity, positive energy and helpfulness to the people around you and things like that. And yeah, I mean, I just want to, use ice cream as that vehicle or as that platform for, doing the simple things that take the world forward, I guess.
I love it. All right. If you want to find more about you, Sanket, or Miss Neeta's Ice Cream, which I don't think we said the name of your awesome ice cream company, which I think is named after your mom, right?
Yeah, yeah. So it's called Miss Neeta's Ice Cream Parlor, and the reason it's Miss Neeta is obviously because she's a teacher. And in fact, actually, that name too, I had thought of it back when I was 12 years old. So, I carried it right through.
Beautiful. And people can find you on LinkedIn.
Yeah, we do have a LinkedIn page, but mostly, well, it just links to our website. So
Okay.
missneetas.com, missneetas.com, and then same thing, Instagram at Miss Neetas.
Beautiful. Well, I'm assuming it's about to be go time for the ice cream prince or the dessert prince as spring and summer approaches. So I think it's a very American dreamish kind of story. I love it. I hope you just, kill it this year. I wish you the most success ever, man. I really appreciate all the time we've got to spend together over the years, and I wish you nothing but the best, buddy. So thank you for being on.
Thank you so much, Jay. I really appreciate that. And yeah, thanks for having me on.
Hey, brother. Have a good rest of your week. Good luck at the conference tomorrow. See ya.
Thank you. All right, see ya.